Welcome back to the Webby and O'Neill channel, and thanks for joining us for another video. As you can see, we're in the garden today. We're not at hotel football. Car was in the garage this morning. On a positive note, it cost a lot less than what we originally thought, so it's a positive to start off the day. We want to discuss Ruben Amorim and Omar Berrada and Sir Jim Ratcliffe's on Amorim's future. Get involved in the chat as usual. Have your say, because we will discuss some of your comments throughout today's video. I was going to say, how are you feeling? You're looking cold. I mean, about 5 or 10 minutes ago, the actual sun was out, and now it looks like we've been flanked by rain clouds. So I'm not too sure how long we will be on the video for, but I suggest you do watch the whole video, just in case we have to dart off, because I'm sure a lot of you would end up laughing out there.
I've had my big coat on, my big coat off. Yeah. I don't know what this weather's doing. I think we've made a right mistake, but hey, we're troopers and we're going to carry on. No, all good news out there about Ruben Amorim, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, everyone inside the club, and now the latest one, Omar Berrada. So, you know, for Ruben Amorim, anyone doubting if Ruben Amorim was going to be staying, well, he's definitely staying. There's no two ways about it, and I'm made up about it.
Yeah, Omar Berrada, as mentioned, he would love Ruben Amorim to lead the club into the new stadium, but it's also conceded that the cost building, it may be a risk to the actual transfer budgets as well.
Well, he's talking about, he's hoping Ruben Amorim's here for the next 5 to 10 years when the stadium opens. You've got to remember, he's Omar Berrada's man. He wanted him in here, he's brought him in here. You know, I think Omar Berrada there is putting it to bed about Ruben Amorim's future, about the way the club feels about him. So for me, 5, 10 years being here, I mean, that's a hard, managers nowadays, 18 months, 2 years. So, you know, he's being optimistic, but, you know, he's getting behind his man, and that's what you want to hear.
I'm optimistic now. That sun's out, but it's right in the eyes.
It's not going well today.
I can't even see the computer screen, but I will get onto some of your comments through today's video. I do promise you. And you're mentioning about, you know, long-term targets, wanting Ruben Amorim to stay. I mean, let's all face it, let's be honest with ourselves. It's nothing less what you expect from a CEO like Omar Berrada. You know, you take yourself back before that Liverpool home game earlier on in the season at Old Trafford. There was full backing from Omar Berrada for Ten Hag, and Dan Ashworth coming out with similar comments, and it didn't last long, let's be honest with ourselves.
Yeah, but they've, over the last few days, they've put Eric Ten Hag in his place about how they didn't feel well over him, and Ruben Amorim's the man, and they're sticking with him. They've got a plan. If you look at over the last couple of days, anyone what's seen any reports out there and that, they're getting everything in order as they see it about investments, you know, manager, players, recruitment, you name it, the lot. So they've put out the strategy there. It's the long-term plan, and what you've got to do, you've got to do that and hope it works. You know, every Manchester United fan should really get behind it. Yes, there's always doubts about what people promise and everything else like that, but we'll deal with that as it comes along. But for now, I think there's a bit of positive in the camp. We need it. You know, we've had the draw against Arsenal, a good performance. We've got a Europa League game coming up tomorrow. So, you know, a bit more positive about the manager, and that's what you want. And them players now know. If they've not known before, they now know they've got to put themselves on offer and work hard, or they're out. That's how I see it, and that's what you want.
Yeah, just diving into the chat, Richard James and the Ad Archive, picking up on your comments there, having a little bit of a giggle to myself. But going back to your previous comment there, it was, I just get the feeling that this stadium won't happen. Now, Ad Archive, give me your reasons why you don't think it'll happen. And anyone else out there, to be fair, do you still think that the stadium won't actually get built, and all these plans that we've seen over the last 24 hours, do you think they'll actually get put into fruition and actually happen in the next 5, 7 years? But let us know. But I'm going to go back onto the actual Athletic and Omar Berrada's comments, and he admitted that the examples of Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur showed building a stadium could affect the recruitment, and his quotes were that it is a risk. Clearly, it's something we want to avoid. We don't want to inhibit our ability to invest in the team. For us to continue being competitive while also building a new stadium, so they're aware of all the challenges that are at stake here in going forward with a new stadium, squad building.
I think what they're doing, they're giving everyone a vision of what the next 30 years at least will be about. And it's about investment in the team, the stadium, what will be built. You know, they're all positive about it, and you've got to look at that stadium. It won't just be for football. The income it will generate will be unbelievable. Everyone will want to go to Old Trafford. That's if it's called Old Trafford. everything's a big risk. Where the money coming from? But they're telling us they've got the money for the stadium. And I think it all depends when you read between the lines. And I did say it the other day, if the regeneration happens, I think that's what it all boils down to, and no one's really talking about it. But the vision is good. Everyone should be excited. Some people don't like the stadium, the design, what they've seen. But, you know, I'll tell you what, there won't be a Manchester United fan sat at home if he's got the opportunity to go there on the first game, because I'll tell you what, I'll be there, and I think I'll be there before anyone.
The night before, camps out.
Yeah, you know, you look at the stadium, you know, the design and all that, right? And you say to yourself, yeah, it's good. Some people are saying they don't like it and all that. Listen, on the day you get there, you'll be amazed by it, because it is going to be absolutely the best stadium. And that's what they've promised, and that's what we want, and I think that's what we deserve, because we've suffered now for quite a number of years.
Yeah, I think a new stadium, which a lot of people out there, whether you like the look of it or not, it's taking Manchester United forward and far into the future, where we could be leading a lot more than other clubs who've currently got decent stadiums or who are above us in the Premier League, just because of the finances it will generate. And you're looking at the pictures, you're listening to the architects, Jim Ratcliffe, etc. It looks like there's going to be something going on there at the stadium and around the area every single day. To me, it's going to bring in a lot more than just football and Manchester United. I
think once we get further down the line with this build, you'll hear about what the future the stadium will be holding, what it will be hosting, rugby, concerts, you name it, a lot, NFL, everything, and then the surrounding area, what that will be like. It'll be a multi-purpose area, like a sports city, what will be generating business every day. And I think when you look at it, and when people start worrying about where the money will come, and I know it's a risk, everyone knows it's a risk where the money's involved in that, but I'll tell you something now, every sponsor will want to jump in there and have a piece of that land around there, a building with their name on it. You know, you and I was talking, if you look at Apple, people like Apple would want to have something there. Yeah. This is going to be iconic. And if you don't like the stadium and you're not happy with it, well, do you know what? I'd just forget that, because all you're going to do is depress yourself for years and years and moan and moan and moan about it. There's no point moaning. No. What we're going to move forward, and you've got to, like, cross your fingers and hope that they get it right, okay? And it's a big if.
One thing, when I did look at the pictures, though, I actually thought we were moving like a few hundred yards from the actual original stadium. I thought we were moving to Spain or warmer climates, because some of the pictures, you see people sat out in deck chairs, and I'm thinking, this is Manchester. I actually don't know anyone who actually owns a deck chair. You know, all nice and sunny. Do you know what I mean? All positive vibes. You know, people on the pictures that have been drawn, all happy faces. So by that time the stadium's built, they must be expecting us to win the Premier League and be challenging.
Yeah, well, if you go back to our early videos and that, you'll see me and Webby and, you know, Kieron out there outside Old Trafford and that. Very rarely sunny. Very rarely sunny. Do you know what I mean? So pictures are pictures.
Yeah.
But you have to believe in the reality, and you have to have a vision. And the vision is there. It's on paper. And that's all it's on. And the investment and everything is all a risk. It's all if. So for me, big risk, but I like it.
Yeah, United's, as you can see on the screen, United's underperformance, in the league means will likely have to win the Europa League to earn a place in next season's Champions League, and the financial rewards will come with that. And Berrada did say, there's no doubt that if we qualify, for the Champions League, we will have more revenues and we'll have more capacity to invest in the team. We are putting in place various financial measures to allow us to go and invest in the summer, even if we're outside of Europe. So do you think some of them plans, they've already been done, with the job losses, the job cuts? I think, is it 450 jobs roughly in total that would be expected to made redundant since Ineos walked through the door as well?
I think the job losses will continue, but the job losses, what they've done now is based on European football, the Europa League and that. And it's good that they're actually changing the plans, and they have to change the plans, because it's on a knife edge. And I mean a knife edge if we can qualify for the Champions League, because we have to win the Europa League. It's something I believe, but that's my personal belief. I know people out there think I'm absolutely mad, but they can't do that. They've got to do the proper cost cutting. And if you look at it, until costs until costs are controlled, there's no, how can I say it? There's no investment, there's no overspend, there's no like a little bit of glamour. We're going to bring in that player. There's none of that at all. So these costs are going to be under control. There's going to be lots of cost cutting for quite a few years, I believe. I think for the next 3 years, I think you'll see some severe cost cutting, especially if we don't get in that Champions League next year, and that's by winning the Europa League.
Yeah, I do think, though, with the size of the actual ground as well, just judging off the pictures, what we've all seen out there over the past 24, 48 hours, that with the size of it, I don't think there'll be really just one company or one person group who will be looking at investing money into the infrastructure of the new ground because of the size of it. You might get multiple investors, you know, with one section of like you mentioned before, the Apple Centre, let's just say, on one side of the ground, then on the other side of the ground, it's the Snapdragon side and, you know, other various sides of the ground because of it, how big it is.
Yeah, well, I listen.
I think that's where they're looking at really generating a lot of revenue for this because of the size of the actual project.
Yeah, they've not come out with any details about where the funding's going to come from and that, but you can imagine big investors, big corporations are going to come in. We've got Snapdragon now. They've got a 10-year on the shirt. So I've said it previously. I do believe Snapdragon might have a major influence on this stadium. They might put an absolute fortune into it because they're just looking at a global audience, and with the technology they've got, they'll bring into it. I think there's many. I don't think there's any fear, really. Once it's given the green light, that's how I look at it. Once it's given the green light by the government that the everything around Trafford is going to be sorted out and the investment comes in, I can't see any problem. You know, it's the regeneration. And if the regeneration gets the green light, I just think there'll be a massive queue at the door. Yeah. You know, you're talking about Manchester United, like with like an iconic stadium with everything changing. You know, there'll be nothing like it. So I hope it all goes ahead. I hope it all works right, you know. But, you know, I'm still sceptic, and quite rightly, you have to be sceptic.
Conrad, like the name, he says the club needs to progress into the future. The building of the stadium will attract many events and bring in more income. And like we said, I don't think, you know, there's certain investors that they will want to attract in funding. The actual development will be all maybe to do with football. Like we've mentioned, a big name like Apple. You know, there will be businesses and companies out there who might want to throw the toe in the water to do with football, especially with a project and a club the size of Manchester United.
Well, I look at the stadium this way, okay, and people are looking at it this way, corporations and everything, and certainly Snapdragon. You know, if you was outside Old Trafford right now, you'd see a big banner on the wall on the front of the stadium, and it's got 1 billion fans around the world. Well, if that's the case, they believe they've got 1 billion fans around the world. Their intention is to be in contact with them, and that's through technology and everything. And I've stated before, I do believe the technology where you'll be able to sit at home and you'll be able to click onto something as though you're sat in a seat watching the game live.
Like virtual reality sort of thing.
Virtual reality. I think that's coming, and I think Snapdragon are going to be the leaders in it. So, you know, everything's open. Everything's open.
Well, you've seen something similar. I forget what the name's called, but I know it's in LA, where they're in a bar over there, and the actual screen, it's absolutely huge, and you've got loads of fans who are just sat there, you know, having a meal, having a drink, and they're actually pitch side, but it feels like it's actually inside the stadium. But from actual pictures I've seen on social media, I'm sure there's a few of you out there as well, but you could have someone sat in LA who's maybe bought a season ticket for a certain seat, but every single game they're watching it with a VR headset on constantly, and they can soak up the atmosphere, everyone who's around them.
But that's what's going to come into everybody's living room around the world. Yeah. Technology keeps changing after 6 months and that, but it's all about investment, and that's the big worry. And let's hope it all gets sorted.
Yeah, they've got someone on board there who can probably deal with all that, though, with Snapdragon. I mean, Omar Berrada has said as well, it's expected the completion of the refurbishment of the training ground at Carrington to be done by early August. So I'm sure as soon as that gets done, you know, all eyes will be on this new stadium going forward.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but you talk about the new stadium. I didn't mention it today. It's an ambitious plan. I mean, a major ambitious plan that, they're talking about normally it'd take 10 years to build this, and they're cutting it down to 5. And the ambitious plan, it's like there's 160 prefabricated sections which are going to be like brought down the Manchester Ship Canal and brought there. And they believe that this new innovation, the way they're going to do it, will save them 5 years. Absolutely. Amazing. Coming down a barge, that in itself will be a sight to behold. Coming down there, Manchester United football ground, coming along the Manchester Ship Canal, unloading it and everything. Now that in itself will take a massive area, a loading bay, where they can store things and everything. So that there, the way they've gone into it, tells you the way ahead of what needs to be done, and it's just the signal for the regeneration. I can't wait for that start to see a section of the ground being brought down the Manchester Ship Canal.
I
don't think I've ever, even as a young kid, the Manchester Ship Canal used to be used all the time around that Trafford area and I don't think I ever saw anything like that. So this, at my age, be a sight to behold.
Like I say, when it is actually being done, when that is, we don't know just yet. But we'll be still playing at Old Trafford. So when you are going to the games as well, maybe people who are not overly happy right now and seeing the pictures, but when they actually go into the games at Old Trafford and you're seeing it being built, I think then a lot of people will start getting a bit of a buzz about it and looking forward to the future. And in the chat there, Paul Lantham says big corporations will be falling all over each other.
Correct.
To put the money up front on this new build, and I completely agree with that, mate. I do actually think they're really optimistic behind the scenes about getting the funding for it.
I think when you look at like what the question they're telling us, I fully agree with that. And I think the good thing about that, what people aren't thinking, there's only so much. And the more and more people what come in to try and invest and get a piece of the action in that, the price goes up. So it's a good thing. See, people are forgetting Manchester United is an iconic brand. And with this there, it is just going to be absolutely global, the biggest thing ever, and that's the vision. I can't wait. I think just bringing down on a barge section of the thing, that'll just go right round the world. I think every Manchester United fan will be interested in seeing that come down, that first bit of the new ground.
Yeah, just going to go on to a little bit of what Ruben Amorim has said in his actual press conference, and he was asked about his relationship with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and Amorim replied, "We are blunt and honest with each other, simple, clear and honest conversations." And he did reiterate the same 24 hours ago to Jim Ratcliffe in his conversations with Amorim, and he clearly likes him as well.
Yeah, I've always seen Ruben Amorim. I think most United fans out there have seen Ruben Amorim straight down the line. What you see is what you get, and he's going to tell you the truth. And he's told these players the truth. He's told you what it's like in the club and all that. But a lot of people took that the wrong way. They thought like he's doing the wrong thing. No. But he's had permission, and I've mentioned it a few times. He's not talking out of school. He's talking with Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Omar Berrada around him. They know what these players are like. They know the culture. So they've got Ruben Amorim. They brought him in, and they've told him, they brought him in early, remember. It's not supposed to be here till the summer. But they brought him in and said, look, you've got a free reign. And Ruben Amorim has known that. But the press, those doubters, those people who don't like Ruben Amorim, who want him out and all that, which I don't think there's that many people, right? They've been critical of him, but he has had the green light. Get in there and sort it out. And that's what I've liked. Yes, we know the football's been terrible. The results have been terrible. And I've always said since day one, it's in the summertime. We have to put up with it. It's tough. It's carnage and chaos. But Ruben Amorim, free reign. And what he said, he's had full backing by the management, and that's fantastic.
I was actually going to say, his honest comments have maybe then come at a cost with team performances, but, I'm trying to think specifically over the last few weeks or this calendar year, but I can't really remember thinking to myself, or coming away from a game and thinking, that player down tools today. That player didn't give 100% effort. I've not really noticed that. Yes, we've seen poor performances, but there's a difference between effort, giving everything, than actual quality on the ball and quality on the pitch.
I think we've seen patches of these players. And I just look at the summer and I think some of them know they're going, some are leaving and that. But effort, sometimes I've been screaming. been screaming at some of these players. What it is, they're just not capable, some of them, of playing in this system. And there's new players there, and it was mentioned this week about new players coming in and that. But it's all changed. But it's something we have to accept, and I've been saying it since day one. We have to accept. Rip the club apart. That's what's needed to be done. Soon as Sir Jim Ratcliffe came in, I wasn't his biggest fan. I'm still not his biggest fan. So let me make that clear to you, okay? But what I wanted from him is what he's doing. He's clearing it. He's clearing the decks. He's getting all the dead wood out and everything. And that doesn't mean just the players. That means staff in there and all that whose time has expired. Yes, there's some unfortunately casualties in there, right? But that's the nature of the beast. It needs clearing out. And I go back to what I said before. I think you won't see any real improvement for 3 years because of the lack of investment what's going to come into this club. Already Sir Jim Ratcliffe's put his money in. I don't think he's going to put any more money in. And we all know one thing, the Glazers ain't going to put a penny in, but they're looking to take money out after 3 years. So we'll see what comes over the next few years. But you have to have faith, okay? There will be ups and downs. So it's going to be very hard to stick with it. But clear out is needed. And I don't care about the performances this year because I know what's the most important thing. And there's quite a few people out there what know what the most important thing is. Rip this club apart and start again. And that looks like what's happening.
Maybe in a way, we'll only know if we look back in the next 12 to 18 months on this, but maybe it was a good time for Ruben Amorim to come in at this point in the season that he did do, instead of coming in the summertime. Maybe, you know, everything all like, as you say, hunky-dory, and, you know, the players showing a different side to him and making it as all like they will put 100% effort in the, you know, the pre-season, you know, the early games, whereas he's got a full knowledge now of what players can do during a season.
No.
So that clear out will become a lot easier in the summertime under Amorim.
No, I think what it is, you look at Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the rest of the team in that, they're ruthless. They don't care, right? They're ruthless, right? I think they would have had everyone earmarked for getting out by the time by Ruben Amorim coming in this summer, if that's what was happening. I think they've got everyone's card marked inside that club, and that means staff, players, everything. So he would have had a clean sheet, and I also believe that they would have also gone and got the players, got them ready for Ruben Amorim, and I think that conversation would have gone on. So I have to give credit where it's due. I think they're there, they're ripping everything out, they're starting afresh, and they know it's tough. I know it's tough, and I have to accept it. I don't like it, but the thing is, there is no going back now. There is no going back. Everything has to be ripped, and we have to start afresh. Now, you look at the position we're in, and no way did I think we'd finish in that position, and that is because the players haven't, over the last maybe 12 months, been given 90 minutes football on that pitch, and they certainly haven't in some of the home games, especially the last 6 or 7.
Oh, you mean like effort? I thought you meant they've been given 90 minutes.
No,
yeah, they've all been given the opportunities, every player.
One of them.
And just go back to a comment you mentioned about players' cards being marked. I think you're probably correct on that when you look at players who left on loan, like your Anthony and Marcus Rashford. I think their cards were marked even before Ruben Amorim come in.
Yes.
And they brought a manager in who is on the same page and the same direction as the football club. And that's what we want as well, because then you've got a fully working machine then going forward and everyone's on the same page. A bit of medical news. You're all right, I'm all right. Fingers crossed, hopefully you're all right out there as well with your own health. But further shake-ups at Manchester United with senior staff, and the head of medical services, Gary O'Driscoll, is set to leave the club after 18 months. Jim Moxon is also departing United after 2 years as senior men's first-team doctor. I mean,
they've not lasted long.
They've not lasted long there, have they? But if you're looking at the squad in particular, last season under Erik ten Hag, I mean, you'd get one player back, then you'd lose 2 straight after a game. And I'm going to go into other injury news. Mason Mount, he's been seen training for the first time today. Is that roughly after being 3 months out? No sign of Luke Shaw just yet?
No, you look at them doctors, the medical staff and that. Someone had to take the can. And they're taking it 18 months and 2 years in a job as big as Manchester United. You would think they'd be there for like 8, maybe possibly 10 years. You know what I mean? Dig themselves in. They know what they're doing. Well, obviously, they've looked at it. How they've looked at it and how they've assessed it, they might have brought their own people in and said, hey, checked that out, and they found some irregularities, and it seems as though they've had to bite the bullet, and they've been slung. Someone had to face it.
Just going back onto something what's just come into my head, we've discussed it a few weeks ago, and a few of us out there. Sir David Brailsford's Mission 21. It was largely looking at sports science as well. I wonder if Sir David Brailsford has done his own audit. You know, out there, he loves to do an audit. Done an audit on the medical department and thought, this is something that can be my pet project. Maybe get new staff in there to see if there's an upturn.
Well, I'm not going to... I've already talked about Brailsford. I'm not happy that he just come here as a part-time person just to look around, see what was going on. The floors are dirty. Hey, that's it. And then suddenly he's moved from one position to another position. Yeah. And I've been adamant what's been going wrong inside Manchester United for years and years. People have been moved from one position to another because it's vacant and they've not been qualified or anything. And I don't see this Brailsford, the way he's going. He seems to have got his feet right under the table and then risen and risen with more jobs to do. He's took on more importance, and I don't like that. And I think that could be a little bit of an Achilles heel from the Ineos department going forward. I hope it's not. I hope I'm completely wrong, right? But from where I'm sat, another person who's within the regime getting risen in the ranks without proper qualification. That's how I see it. I might even be wrong about his qualification. I just see he never came in to Old Trafford with the Ineos group for this role. Yeah. And then suddenly he's been promoted. And I don't like that.
Well, it's like he's took more of a hands-on role since Dan Ashworth left, which was obviously a sporting director, but I wouldn't have, you know, after everything you read and you hear on him out there in the news, on podcasts, coming from his own mouth, he doesn't strike you as someone who would suit a role as a sporting director. Do Man United still need a sporting director to fill that vacancy? Let me know what you think out there. But yeah, to David Brailsford, I'm a little bit like that, especially with all his marginal gains. That's probably why he's fired some of the medical staff. Might be.
I'm going to be perfectly honest here.
You know, these players might actually be running all day and all night after his marginal gains.
I mean, 2 years ago, I never heard of all these titles in football. Everyone seems to have a title, right? They all seem to have a, academia behind them, science behind them, and everything like, you know what I mean? You know, get out training, run. Oh, I've got an injury, right? Well, okay, let's sort it out. That's how it used to be. I'm being pretty blunt.
Right, I'm going to be deadly blunt right now. The rain is absolutely throwing it down. I can't actually...
No,
I don't know if you can actually see it on here. The computer's probably going to blow up in any second right now. So I'm going to flap it down. Just like to thank you all for joining us. Please smash a like on today's video, and we'll be back straight after the game tomorrow. It's much appreciated you joining us. Thanks, everyone. You take care. Absolute nightmare. But